Okay, we are now live. Welcome to the meeting. And Fiona, if you would like to, over to you. Thank you.
Hi, morning everybody. Firstly, apologise for the background. Obviously working from home at the moment. I've got children around. They are on do not enter the room, so they are on strict orders at the moment. Okay, but apologies for the background anyway. So as we've all been realising, we've got this government advice anyway, where it says that we've only got to go outside for food, health reasons, or work if absolutely can't be done at home. Apart from that, if you do have to go outside, it is of course 2 meters away and you've got to wash your hands. So generally everybody is okay for that, you know, we can get around a little bit, but the problem is that when someone of course is isolating, you've got to stay at home, or if someone is a vulnerable person, this is really where I think my advice is going to kick in a bit more really, rather than generally if you are isolated, you know, hopefully you've got enough in your home to keep you covered for the time being. I think also just as an extra thing is that if anybody has got any questions that they do want to ask me privately, do so. I'll give you my details at the end of this. So if you have got any general questions, that's fine, but you might want to obviously ask me something privately anyway yourself, okay? So at the moment, like you say, with vulnerable people, they may be isolated for at least 12 weeks. So then the question is about food and health decisions maybe. So there's two sides of this one. We've got the financial aspect, but we've also got the health aspect as well. So this advice isn't age dependent, you know, it can affect anybody. So it can affect the elderly, but it can also affect those within who are classed as the vulnerable person as well. I have got some notes here as well, just so as we go along. So if I'm looking down, that's why. So just concentrating on financial decisions. Obviously, if some person has got mental capacity, they'll be able to go to the shop, or they could go to the bank. Banks, I've checked online anyway, some banks are actually keeping the branches open. So banks, you know, are not included within this list set by the government. But, you know, it might still be important that the banks need to go to the bank. So, so if there is someone at home, what can you do to help them? And that's the main issue now, is how can you help someone who is isolated at home, and you would need to go and do the shopping for them, or you need to go and pop out to the bank for them, or whatever. So, so how can we do that? Now, of course, the government has said that they're going to provide food. I don't know how that's going to work out. You know, watch that space, I guess, for that one. I don't know any detail on that one. But if you are wishing to help them, a lot of people do have cash at home. Certainly elderly, I don't know about anyone else, but you know, they will usually get their pensions maybe, and they've got the post office accounts, and they will have a supply of cash at home. But the difficulty then of course is when the cash runs out. So how on earth do we access to that, like that bank account? They don't always have online banking. Some people don't like online, they don't like to deal with online banking at all. So first things first anyway, bank cards. So if someone does give you the bank card, you know, firstly, we are actually sort of breaching the bank rules in detail, because obviously when you're given a bank card, you're not permitted to share the PIN. You know, it's one of those things, don't share the PIN with anybody. But, you know, so I'm not obviously going to condone anything like that. However, it does go on where people do, like say, they go to pop to the bank or whatever. So if you are in that situation, then obviously my first bit of advice really is just make sure you've got receipts for anything anyway. You know, it is one of those difficult times, so I can appreciate, you know, some things in the law is going to sort of slip off a little bit, but what I would say is that you make sure you do keep receipts for anybody anyway. Okay, so otherwise, if people do have capacity, obviously they can call the bank, they can make the telephone calls, you know, and hopefully they can have the online banking. But, you know, even if, say, they get a cheque sent to them in the post and they ask you to the bank the cheque for them, sadly, you know, in these times, it's been getting more and more serious where the banks do not want to allow anybody to pay the cheques into their account for them. So, you know, you will see that cheque stubs, paying-in slips, I should say, are actually taken out of the bank branches. So again, you know, there are more restrictions with regard to who can pay money into the bank accounts. So again, that's where really, and ideally the person at home will have capacity and will be able to talk to the bank And there are apps even with the banks where you can take a photo of the cheque. That's been coming in more often, so I don't know if anybody's seen that, but you can take a photo of the cheque and it pays in online. So again, if there's anything like that, you can check that out. I've not tried it, but I have seen it's been advertised a little bit in the branches recently. So again, if it is a case of someone paying in, you can do things like that anyway. Okay. So again, a lot of this does depend on how tech savvy someone is, really. If they're not tech savvy, then if there is something financial that needs to happen and maybe they haven't got a power of attorney in place, as a matter of urgency at the moment, if someone does need to go to the bank or does need to access anything financially, then we can do what's called a general power of attorney. So a general power of attorney is a document which usually you create when, say for example, you are selling a house or you are buying a house, but you've got to go abroad on work or do something. So it's more a specific situation where it's not a lengthy document like a lasting power of attorney. There's different rules in for that document anyway. So the general power of attorney itself, you can say there's a specific matter I want to deal with. There can be a time limit on it. So that, for example, can be put into place, and you can say I want someone to do something for a certain amount of time. And that anyway can't be used if there is mental incapacity. So you do have to have capacity to make that, and it will expire if there is mental incapacity at a later date. So if you do have anybody that needs anything dealing with urgently that is a financial aspect, then of course we can put a general power of attorney in place if we need to do that at the moment. Okay, that, like I say, that's something that we wouldn't normally deal with generally, but it is something that is an option at the moment. The reason being is that a lasting power of attorney in comparison is something that it takes a bit of time to set up. So it does take a bit of 3 months really-ish to register, and again, you know, depending on time limits at the moment with coronavirus, we've got staff who are not in the court service and it might take longer. So if there is really anything that has to be done, then that's fine. Okay, so again, just get in touch. Hello, I can't hear you.
I've sent you a little chat just to say, can all of that, the power of attorney stuff, be done remotely?
Yeah, it's a bit like wills at the moment. So Nicola will be experiencing this. So as solicitors dealing with wills, we are key workers. So we are dealing with everything over the phone. We've also, as you know, we're testing out Zoom nowadays. So this is all new experiences for us as well. So everything can be done remotely. We are doing things from a distance. There is a big question over witnesses and how on earth are you going to get these documents witnessed. With a will, there is what's called the section 9, which basically means that when you do a will, you've got to have a person, the testator, signing the will in front of 2 witnesses, and you all have to watch each other and sign together. So that is causing problems. Whether or not the government's going to relax that a little bit, just temporarily, I don't know. But at the moment, what we are doing is taking instructions over the phone or video conferencing, and then if we have to, obviously we've got to get things signed anyway, so generally we will say to the person, okay, can you get someone to look through the window? So we're doing it through a window at the moment. You know, have a window open, pass it through, but make sure you use separate pens. You know, if you've got to touch the paper, you know, I think it is on the paper at that moment. So if it is passed on paper, again, just straight away wash your hands. So, you know, ideally with witnesses with wills, you've got someone next door perhaps who's a couple that live together. They can do it. You can watch each other through the window, and that's how we're sort of getting around it at the moment. If absolutely necessary and absolutely urgently, we can go to the person and take instructions and get it all signed. That is absolute last case scenario. Our guidance from Solicitors Regulation Authority, basically, you know, if we can do it, we do, but if we you know, for example, I have asthma, so I might not want to put myself in that situation. So, you know, at that stage, we could say, well, we can't, but we can pass you on to someone else who can do that. So we've just got to make sure that we set everything out in writing, so that if there is a question about it later on, then we've sorted it out. So yeah, it is difficult. It's times changing. How on earth we're doing it, but we are. It's, you know, business as usual as far as us will writers or powers of attorney are concerned anyway. So yes, we're sorted. So yeah, so like I say, just moving back into the power of attorney situation. So the general one, just to recap, if there is something absolutely urgent that needs dealing with, that is a financial matter, we can do a general power of attorney. But like I say, it's temporary, and it won't be for people who have incapacity. Okay, so that's option one. The second option, of course, is where people may already have powers of attorney in place. There's lots of people who've already made them. There are still the old enduring powers of attorney knocking around. They were from before October 2007. They can be used, but it depends on what is on the document. So on an enduring power of attorney, you can say that it only takes effect if there is mental incapacity. So if they've done that and they've got capacity, it can't be used. If they have got availability where they can act, then it can be used straight away. So again, if you've got an enduring power of attorney, again, I can just double check it for you and we'll have a look and see you're okay. If someone does then end up with mental incapacity, it does have to be registered, and it can't be used until it is registered once that mental incapacity happens. Okay, so that's enduring power of attorney. I'm not going to go into too much detail on those because there's not that many of them knocking around now, but there will still be out. They are still out there. So I just thought I'd just mention it because it's still relevant. So, so like I say, ideally people may well have a lasting power of attorney in place. If they do, like I say, there's two types. There's a financial and a health and welfare. Financial one, we'll look at first. I'll come to the health and welfare in a minute. Okay. So the financial one, it can't be used until it is actually registered. So again, it depends if they've done the whole process of registering it. If it's registered, it can be used straight away, provided that they haven't ticked the box again where mental incapacity. So if you do need me to double check that, I will check that for you. Okay. So the main thing is that if there is a financial lasting power of attorney in place and it isn't subject to mental incapacity, then at the moment it can be used. And what you do is you take it to the bank. You can send it to the pension company or DWP or whoever, and they will be able to use it. So it's just a case of them taking it to the bank or registering it with them or speaking to the head office. Obviously, don't just rock into the bank at the moment, give them a call, you know, and just check the procedures at the time anyway. So like I said, power of attorney, great if it's in place. Looking at health and welfare side of things, what happens with that one is the enduring power of attorney doesn't include health and welfare at all. So so that's not an option. The reason why you'd have a power of attorney for health and welfare is so that someone can make decisions for you if you have mental incapacity. So that's the difference between the financial and the health and welfare. So the financial can be used if there is mental incapacity, provided it allows it to do so, and it will be used if there is mental incapacity. Health and welfare can only be used if there is mental incapacity. So if you are in a situation where there is someone that you are looking after and they don't have capacity, then you can speak to the doctor, speak to the hospital and help make decisions about their medication or where they live or the care home or whatever. So again, you can be sort of guided by that. So with regard to powers of attorney anyway, generally, you know, if they are in place and you have got any questions about those at all and you need some advice on how to use them or how to, you know, what you need to do with the banks at all, just, you know, just give me a call or just let me know anyway and I can help you out. So have you got any questions with powers of attorney, anybody, just at that stage? Nope. Fab. Okay. The one main thing with capacity is that if there is, if it does need to be used during this mental incapacity, there are 5 principles that must be complied with by the attorney. These principles are set out in the Mental Capacity Act 2005. So as an attorney, if you are making decisions, the main principles are as follows. So you have to assume, that someone has capacity, if possible. If they have lost capacity, then decisions that you make must be in that person's best interest. So if they do decide to start making decisions and they are not necessarily wise decisions, you might think they're not a great decision, but it's something that they would have done because they were a bit eccentric, then you still have to try and support them with that decision. Okay, so you might think it's way off, but their belief systems might think, well, they will act differently. So you've got to respect their decisions. You also have to support them to make decisions. So it's not just about you suddenly going roughshod over somebody. Again, it's about acting in their best interests and looking after their money for them and acting correctly with regards to the finances. Finally, if it's a question of deprivation of liberty, then that is very restrictive, and that usually is where someone is moved into a psychiatric unit or into a nursing home because of dementia situations. But again, this situation is not about that. This is more about, I'm hoping, really a temporary situation where people need a bit of help. And I think more it might be a case of a general power of attorney might have to be put into place. Like I say, if you haven't got a lasting power of attorney at the moment, it does take quite a few months to get in place. We can certainly take instructions on those, and we can do all that remotely. We can do it over the phone. We can arrange the witnessing. Like I say, it's just working around everybody's situations and where they are, where they live and everything else, but we can get them into place, but it does take time. So it is possible. There are things out there. So the only other aspect, I suppose, is with regard to where people are concerned about wills. It's not a nice discussion to be having anyway. People don't want to talk about that. So again, I've already covered this really with regard to will signings. We can still take instructions. So if it is something that is worrying people, or they are, even in this situation, we're all saying, okay, what's on my list, my to-do list? Well, I've got to clean my garage out. I need to get my will sorted. I need to do this, that, and the other. So again, it's something that people are looking at the moment. So if anybody is worried, and if it takes the stress and the concern off them at the moment, then that is where we can still help out. So we can still do wills for people, and we can sort it. Yes.
Fiona,
yeah.
I was just going to say, this applies to everybody really right now, because a lot of us are business owners. And at the moment I'm seeing on the news that there are people in the hospital in the UK of all ages, 20s and 30s, and, nobody's immune to this. And as business owners, we sort of need to think as well about what will happen if something happens to you as a business owner anyway. And I'm just thinking that maybe it's time that people sort of, if they haven't got some steps in place, because like Bev, for instance, she's in partnership with Brett, so sorry, Bev, but if anything happens, do you know what I mean? Where would that leave Brett as an example if Bev hasn't stipulated something specifically about the business? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Business, as you know, businesses are set up in numerous ways. It can range from a sole trader who is on their own. If anything happens to that sole trader and they're in business, who's going to support them? So it can range from that person to then a partnership where you've got like Bev and Brett, and they are working together I'm assuming a partnership. If it's not a partnership, then it may well be then moved into a limited company situation. Now, in a limited company, you might have one director. So it's similar to sole trader, but it's under limited company rules. Or they may have other directors involved. So with regard to Brett and Bev, if anything happens to one of them, because they are a partnership, again, it depends on how they've got things set up. So they may well have a bank account where both the signatures are on it. So they may be okay for, for that time being, but it depends if that company could still, or business could still run with one person there, or if, is there anyone else that can cover things, can sign the checks, can make decision making or anything about the company. If someone's stuck at home, then the business isn't, there's going to be loads of difficulties caused potentially. So again, it's like you correctly said, and I said at the beginning, this does not just apply to elderly people. This is everybody in society. Whether we you can be a vulnerable person, you can be one of this 1.5 million people, and you can age, what age, every age is affected. So and those people, some of those people may well have businesses that still need to run, and they can't get to the bank, they can't get to the shops, they can't do things for themselves. So this advice applies to everybody. So if you are concerned as a business owner, then we can certainly advise with regard to a general power of attorney. And certainly a general power of attorneys may well be a bit more appropriate at the moment for a business owner, because long term, they're not going to want necessarily someone on a lasting power of attorney, So it is a bit of a stopgap anyway. Obviously, at some point they may want to think of things longer term. So if you are worried about your business or about, any decision making, or there's anything specific like operating that bank account, we can do that for you. And like you say, with regard to the wills anyway, we need to start thinking about putting them in place anyway. This isn't about the worst case scenario. We review them all the time. What we want to do is make sure people realise that they're creating this legacy for the loved ones when they've got a business. They've worked hard on that business for many, many years. It is a baby, it's as much of importance as their own family. So we've got to make sure that that business is protected. And if you want to pass it on to your relatives, you can pass it on to your relatives as well.
Fiona, you've got a question from Bev in the chat. Do you want to unmute? I'll unmute you, Bev. Do you want to ask the question, Bev, directly?
Yeah, I've already got power of attorney, as you know, for my brother. A while ago, he had me do a handwritten will for himself, which is just held in a drawer. If anything was to happen, would that be valid, or does it have to be actually registered anywhere?
Right. To handwritten wills anyway, to be legally valid, what I would normally do is check them to make sure that they've been completed correctly. So there's no alterations on them, they've not been tampered with, they've been signed and witnessed correctly so that they comply with all the rules, regarding that under the Wills Act. So legally, so long as they are perfectly valid and they have been done correctly, then they are legally valid. So if anything happened, then you can use that straight away. It depends on the assets. You might need to get a grant of probate, and that's a different side of things. But you do not need to register it anywhere. There is a national will register called Certainty, which is the main one. So if you don't know where a will is, you can always check around the local firm solicitors to see if there is a will. If not, then like I say, you can do a search on Certainty. The problem is with wills, there actually isn't an official enforced register. So whereas we have the HM Land Registry, that is a big computer system which has got a register of all properties that have been registered since about the late 1970s, there isn't one for wills, so there's no compulsory register. So anybody, anyone can make a will. You can go to a post office, you make a will. If it's done correctly, it's legally valid. So if it's in a drawer, the main thing is keep it safe. Lock it away, keep it safe. If you need to use it, you just bring it out the drawer and we can apply for the probate, or you start using it. So your will takes effect on death. But yeah, you don't need to register it anywhere at all.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, again, just thinking about tax as well. So a big question on, you know, on passing away, if you've got a business, it may be that at the moment you don't have the cash assets for you personally to be cash rich, but if your business is valuable, that again can knock you within into inheritance tax risks. So again, as a business owner, it is always worthwhile making sure that wills are in place so it can do tax protection. And of course, if a will or power of attorney is done in connection with a business, then again you can claim it as a taxable allowance as well. So so there is benefits to a business owner as well out of this. But I mean, the main thing is that I just want to make sure that at this time, yeah, you can go to the shops, we can look after people generally, you know, following government advice. But also if you do have any worries or concerns, we are here for you to be able to get some advice. And also, again, it's just taking the stress. You know, we don't want the stress on us. And like you say, you know, it's all there for the future, you know. And lastly, it's just to make sure that if things are in place, the worst case scenario, I've had a couple recently where people say to me, well, Dad wouldn't have wanted such and such a child to inherit, that he wanted me to have all the money. Well, did he have a will? No, didn't have a will. Well, sorry, it's tough. You know, if you haven't got a will in place, then intestacy rules apply. And then people who you might not want to receive the money will get that money. So it is very sensible for you to have a will in place. So if you are saying, I want a certain person to have it, you've got to have a will in place. So there's no doubt about it. So ultimately, it's about ensuring that we do keep your family together, creating a legacy for the future and giving you lots of peace of mind. Because once it's done, I did mine again recently, and I made sure I did a full letter of wishes and everything to show what I wanted for the children, for guardianship, you know, protecting them as well. So, you know, and it's just about making sure there's no stress. So I think that's it. Have you got any questions at all?
Okay. No. All right. Thank you, Fiona.
That's all right.
I'm just going to send a little chat to everybody so they can all read a chat. Just a second.
That's all right. It also, I mean, I know I'm not, I don't practice any other law, so, but I have done litigation and I have done family work before as well. So, you know, so generally as a solicitor, I've got a bit of a broad knowledge anyway. So if there are any other legal questions, if you need to ask me anything, ask me. If I don't know the answer, I can always find out, you know, and you know, tip in for you.
Have you all got the chat message, ladies?
Yep.
Okay. Great stuff. Thank you. I sort of give you a warning on that because otherwise people are going, that was terrible. Okay, so Fiona, do you want to give us your details in case anybody wants to catch up with you privately, email you or call you?
Yeah. So the office is still open. There are 2 of us in the office. We are respectful of each other's distances. I can work from home and I work from home a little bit as well because I've got 2 children to look after. So my phone number for the office is 01253 335 231. You call that number and I will get it anyway, so everything is transferred to me. We are fully remote access, so there's no problems at all at Butterworths. My email address, if you want that as well, is fiona.reid, that's REID, at Butterworths, with an S on the end, -solicitors, with an S on the end, .co.uk.
Okay, so Just a couple of updates on next week Zoom meetings. We have Jenna Atkinson, looks likely to be 2 o'clock on Monday, and Jenna is she's from Harrison Drury, and she is looking at relationships right now. We're going into lockdown. We know sometimes people are already considering maybe a separation and now they can't. So looking at how we can try to help them through, and some advice on that. And then on Tuesday, the 31st of March, we've got Catherine Best. Catherine is a counsellor. She does a lot with bereavement. I've known Catherine for many, many years. She is excellent at what she does. Last year she spoke at a conference in America. She is top of the field. She really is the best. And she's going to be talking about taking back control, because I think we all feel we've lost a bit of control on stuff right now. We can't control coronavirus, and I think a lot of our normal behaviours are going out the window, and we may be feeling a little bit helpless. So she's got some really good advice how to cope right now and take back control. Then on Wednesday, we have our Pink Link network meetings. They're open to visitors and members, obviously. Chorley is Wednesday, so that starts at 9:30. So where we would normally go to Chorley, instead we will be having a Zoom meeting for the Chorley members and any visitors that wish to join us. So that's Chorley on Wednesday. Bolton is on Tuesday, so if you want to jump on Bolton, you're more than welcome to. And then on Friday, we've got our Blackpool meeting. Now, we should have been going to Aintree as well, which obviously has been cancelled. So we are going to put a little bit of a thing out there and say to the Blackpool ladies, if you want to join and put a fascinator on or a hat or something, so that, you know, we can pretend we were sort of at Aintree, just for a bit of fun, really. All of them are on the website, which is pinklinkladies.co.uk, and these Zooms are rewatchable again on Facebook, Pink Link Ladies UK group on Facebook. If you're not a member and you on there and you want to join, it's open to everyone. If you've heard something you thought this morning was worthwhile and you want to share, then encourage others to just jump on the Facebook group. We're more than happy to allow anybody in there right now. So I'm just going to unmute you all before we finish, and I would ask you, let's give Fiona a reaction at the bottom with a hand clap, ladies. We all got that.
Yeah, sorry.
And thank you. Round of applause for Fiona.
Yeah, pushing the comfort zones, not doing this before.
You did an amazing job. Thank you so much. We appreciate you busy. You're coping with everything else that's going on in your own world right now. And so thank you very much for taking time to join us this morning. And ladies, I'll see you on the next Zoom.
Oh, nice to see you. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.